Welcome to the Josh Button Podcast, where we discuss health, wellness, and outliers from society. This is episode 53, and I've got a special guest, Mike Gonzalez, the owner of pathofremembrance.com. He's a clarity and focus coach, an ex-MMA fighter, a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt, and to be honest, you can introduce yourself far better than I can. Please tell us a little bit about yourself and what's going on with you right now.
Yes, so I was a professional MMA fighter, amateur champion, second degree black belt in jiu-jitsu. And along my path of fighting, I actually dove into the world of spirituality and self-development to be able to actually get a competitive edge. And through that journey, I actually got to find out more about myself, find out that I was using fighting to cope with the fact that I wasn't happy. And now I use everything that I learned to gain that competitive edge, to help people gain an edge on any negative thoughts that they may have that might limit them from being the best version of themselves.
Awesome. So you're working with CEOs, with other businessmen, and anybody who's looking to kind of get a little bit better grip on what is going to help them achieve their goals, what they're looking for at this moment.
Yeah, I help them get to break any patterns, because essentially that's all a limiting belief is. It's just a pattern that you constantly repeat, negative thought patterns, talking against yourself, and just figuring out why that makes sense. And once you get to see why that is, it just doesn't make sense anymore.
Right. So when you were fighting, did you actually go to a sports performance specialist or somebody who kind of turned you on and led you down that path? Or was this all self-discovery and you found it upon your own?
It was all self-discovery. Something that I noticed when I started training, I started with jiu-jitsu,
Mm-hmm.
is I started to watch all the fights in MMA, and I noticed what separated champions from everybody else was the mental aspect. Because you can see it take place, and if you pay attention when you watch a fight, you can notice it in the weigh-ins when they have the stare down. You can see it when they walk out, and then it's more obvious during the fight when the shift starts to turn, and then you start to see that one fighter starts to impose their will more.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something that I notice with champions. There's a different composure behind them. They feel very relaxed. They feel very at ease, knowing this within themselves. And that's the physical is very easy to learn. It's easy to get faster because all speed is just efficiency, efficient movement. So it's easy to get faster, easy to get stronger, easy to learn techniques. So the physical is very easy. That's why everybody amplifies that. But not many people want to do the mental. And the biggest part with that is it takes some raw honesty to be able to be honest with yourself as to what are your setbacks, what are your limiting beliefs, how are you holding yourself back? And that's something not many people feel comfortable doing.
Are we talking about fear, or talking about just different addictions or different ways that they're coping with other perhaps life, struggles and stress, or is this purely a mindset that they need to get into?
It's all of it. So fear is like, okay, you're afraid of something. Why are you afraid of it? And a lot of times people think about their fears, but just because you think of it doesn't mean that you're facing it. You know, the more you think about it, you're still kind of running away from the thing that you're afraid of, which means as you're progressing through life, you're kind of dragging the song with you behind you. That's why it's following you in different ways. Whereas if you're able to face the fear in the way that you face the fear is, okay, how am I actually feeling? Why am I feeling this way? And just owning the fact that, okay, you want to be strong, but in this moment you feel weak, you feel afraid. And if you're not willing to just own the fact that that's how you're genuinely feeling, you're going to keep running.
Got it. So I know that in your post and in your story, you talk about your overcoming alcohol. And that was your first layer before you actually went into fighting. And this was something that was like a process for you, as far as identifying different things in your life that may be distractions or may be coping.
Yeah, it was actually part of it was also the beginning of my training, my preparation for MMA. To where, like, first it was like, okay, I'm in college. I went to Penn State. We were ranked the number one party school. So it's like it was hidden in the realm of that to where like I'm just having fun. I'm just enjoying college. And then that will carry over to like I'll be training and I'll be training 7 days a week, taking every single class. Physically, I'm healthy. I'm in the best shape I've ever been in. I'm eating phenomenal. But in order to wind down, I would go down the path of drinking and then carrying over that same habit to where like it wouldn't be just to relax, it'll be to pretty much go all the way and black out.
Mm,
So where like now, what is it that again, what is it that I'm running from? What is it that I'm trying to not even want to recollect or be a part of? And in putting that down, I was like, okay, cool. Now I have to find a different way to fill in that time. And if I feel uncomfortable in trying to connect with people without having a cup in my hand, then why is that? Why do I feel like I can't match their enjoyment? Why can I feel like I can't match their fun without, again, having a cup in my hand?
right. Yeah,
Yeah.
I found it to be extremely challenging when I gave up alcohol to even put myself in the environment. So I didn't think I could relate to individuals if I wasn't partaking in the same exact things that they were to actually be there. Do you have any advice for individuals who are looking to break free of alcohol in specific, and how they should approach those social situations, or whether they should abstain from them altogether?
Yeah. So the main thing, again, is you want to see like why it makes sense.
Hmm.
There's no such thing as right or wrong, good or bad. It's all a matter of preference. And because what might be bad for you, somebody else may find a way that is good for them. So it's removing the aspect of shame. Because if you're already drinking, and the main reason why a lot of people drink is to remove resistance, remove the uncomfortable feeling that's within.
Hmm.
That's the main reason why people drink. Because once you drink, you forget about your problems. Once you forget about your problems, you're back in a state of ease. You're back in a state where you're able to relax. And that's why people have their favorite drinks.
Right.
Because with their favorite drinks, they already have mapped out how many drinks it's going to take to get to that point. There's no guessing. Say, okay, now I know I'll take 3 shots of tequila, whatever. I know I'm going to get to that state and I'll be relaxed. So it's not really the drink. And you can think about that because, honestly speaking, for me, there's really no alcohol that really tastes good. So that means you're willing to take a shot of something that tastes terrible because it feels better after. So again, you're more going after the feeling, not so much the drink. And once you just pay attention to, okay, that's the feeling you're going for. Why aren't you feeling that way? Just get curious about it. Because going down the path of you shouldn't be drinking, about one, so many people already say that.
Hmm.
So you don't need added shame or added finger pointing, and also you know you better than anybody else in the world. So you already know you want more ease. So if that's what you wanted to experience, cool. Why aren't you feeling that? What are you thinking about? What are you spending most of your time, most of your day stressing over? And it may seem like some obvious stuff. Oh well, it's bills and it's debt, and I don't want to handle this. Cool. That's like the top layer. How is that making you feel? Like, what sensation is that representing? Is it representing some doubt? Is it representing some fear of things that may happen? Is like, and the only way you can get true with how you're genuinely feeling, then the only way you could do that is by spending time with you.
Hmm.
And if you're drinking, it's distracting you from how you're feeling because alcohol is a numbing agent. You're not really going to remember how you felt. You don't even remember what you said the night before most of
Right.
the time. So the main thing is not to say don't drink, because something I don't do, I don't tell people what to do. I
Right.
don't like being told what to do. So I'm not going to tell other people what to do. So the main thing is you know what's best for you. But the only way to know that is to actually hear you. And the only way you can actually hear you is if you actually feel you. And you just have to create a space for that. And The best way I could describe it, it's at first it's going to be very uncomfortable. That's why a lot of people at first have a tough time meditating,
Mm-hmm.
because it's like, well, I can't quiet my mind and this is getting annoying and I feel like I'm supposed to be in this blank empty space. It's like, again, there's nothing you're supposed to do. You just have to be with yourself with no distractions, no talking or anything. You just sit with yourself for like 15, 20 minutes. Do that every single day. And if you just sit in silence for 15 to 20 minutes, it'll start to calm down. And the only reason why it's uncomfortable is because you haven't been with yourself for some time. So it's like if you just put two strangers in the room and you're just like looking at each other like, hi, like,
Right.
what do we talk about? I don't know anything about you. And that's a little uncomfortable. But again, you do that every single day, 15, 20 minutes. Then it's like, all right, we're in the same room. We got that in common. What else? And you start to feel like there's a resonance that you have with you. And then there's a level of comfort that you have of just like being with you, which you find in pockets. Because if you ever had a long day at work and you finally sit down and you're like, and you feel that stillness, like you feel yourself actually relax, that's you.
Right.
And you
So
just
do
want
you,
to come back to you more often.
do you have any advice for how people should implement that practice?
Yeah, just 15, 20 minutes every single day just to start off. Just sit in silence. No expectation. You're just sitting there. Thoughts come up. Cool. Just, you don't have to, just acknowledge for 15 to 20 minutes. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to be anywhere. You don't have to be anyway. You just be. And just see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
And then after you keep doing that, write about it to yourself after. What was the experience like? Tell yourself, like, all right, like, and if you have some frustration, cool, like, throw it out on paper. Because what it's going to do is it's going to just slow down your mind. That's essentially what you're looking to do and what you've been trying to do with the drinking. It's just slow down your mind when you're not thinking about 10, 20 different things, like you have 10 tabs open and you're wondering why your phone is moving slower. So it's like you're just trying to just close some tabs. And the reason why sitting still will provide you the clarity as to what it is that you actually want to say. If you write about it after, sometimes people feel a little turned off by the word journal. Just write to yourself after. Write your thoughts down after. As you write your thoughts down after, then you get to see it slows down your thoughts because you have to see what word you're writing and you have to stay up to speed with your writing.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't think too far ahead or else you're not paying attention to what you're writing. So it gets you to actually slow down. And then after you write at least a paragraph. You know, just I'm not gonna say you have to write 800 words and fill out pages. At least a paragraph. Once you hit a paragraph, chances are you're gonna realize you have a lot to say and you're gonna write a lot more. So at least a paragraph, and just read back to yourself what you wrote. Because as you read back to yourself what you wrote, you show yourself that what you say is important to you. And then now that's how, in these little ways, you're cultivating this relationship with you. And as you read back what you say, there's going to be some things that you already know, but there's going to be some things that you're going to be like, huh, I didn't know I felt that way about that. I was kind of under the radar. I was paying attention to like the loud stuff. I didn't see how I was actually feeling about things. And you actually get to be more vulnerable with you. But again, in order to be vulnerable with you, it takes you tending to the relationship. Once you tend to the relationship, you'll find out very fast that you are your ultimate best friend. Out of everybody you know in the world, whoever has the highest role, you're above that. Reason being is because you are with you every single second of every single day. So you know everything about you and you know how you feel. What stresses us out is trying to find understanding with other people. The reason that really will never happen is because you can't feel their emotions. If you think about the closest person in your life, even your parents. You know them very well, but you've never been able to feel their emotions. That's why you always had to ask for clarity. Is this what you meant? Is this how
Right.
you feel? You know how you feel. So that's why this is the most important relationship. And when you don't tend to this relationship, you'll start to feel that separation, that discord. And then any uncomfortable or negative emotion that comes up, you could kind of tie it to a sense of yearning, a sense of longing, a sense of feeling alone. And it's only because you're not with you. If you come back to you, you feel seen. You feel seen, you feel heard, you feel acknowledged. Everything that you've been wanting and asking for the world, you actually have it. You don't need from anybody else. And coincidentally, once you don't need it, you just happen to get it.
So does gratitude practice, does a gratitude journal fall in line with this? Do you add this to that? Do you expand upon journaling after you sit with yourself with gratitude? Um, is that just
Yeah, so uh, find the word that resonates with you. So one thing I found is um, be aware that like you define your experience.
Mhm.
And as you define your experience, if you try to fit in, if you try to make somebody else's definition fit yours, there's always going to be some kind of like uncomfortable feeling with that. So, like, if gratitude is a word that works for you, cool. But if gratitude doesn't fit and appreciation is better, cool. Use that word. You find a word that opens you up rather than constricts you.
Right.
So, or you could use like words of encouragement. So for me, that's something I do. Words of encouragement before I go to sleep. I actually write to the future version of me that is going to wake up in the morning and all the words that he would like to hear to keep him going on this path. So I'll just write words of encouragement like you're on the right track. Things are always working out for you. I trust you. And all the things that I wish I could hear from other people, I just write it to myself and I encourage myself. And when I wake up, I read that and that's how I get to start my day. So
Wow.
it's being aware. So the way the mind works is it's always looking for something. And if you don't give it something to look for, it's just going to revert back to what you always looked for and it's going to find that. So it's like hypothetically, if in the room that you're in, if I say look for three things that are purple and I start counting down five, four, three, you're going to ignore every single other color and only look for purple.
Right.
And that's the same thing. Like when you're thinking like a negative thought, you're only looking for that color.
Right.
So there's no meaning in any room that we go to except for the color that we're looking for. So if you're aware that the mind's constantly looking for something, you just have it, you just have to give it direction. What do you want it to look for? And then now you just start to notice like, I notice like think about like when you're having like a really good day. When you're having a really good day, nothing could bother you. Somebody could say something mean, it'll go over your head just because you're not looking for that color. You're only looking for like, man, I'm feeling really good. I'm listening to my favorite song. Da, da, da. And it's like, cool. What is the pattern of that? What were you doing? You were so locked into looking for things that make you feel good. Cool.
Mhm.
How can you build up off of that? And as you build up off of that, then you start to find other colors that complement that color.
So you're
It's
expanding,
just a lot of fun.
expanding. So
Yeah.
when you were fighting, and did you pick up on this as you went? That maybe, I mean, I don't know what your relationship with jujitsu is, but I imagine fighting, no matter what, there's different consequences that you don't have so much or as much in the sport of jujitsu because it's just a different thing. It's nonviolent
Yeah.
as opposed to something that you can't beat around the bushes. It's violent. It has to be. That's the objective. So did you notice anything in just your career that you were like, oh wait, maybe I'm doing this for some alternative reasoning as opposed to just wanting to be, I don't know, a great fighter?
Um, like as far as using it for the space of wellness or
No, I mean, you said that maybe that's what took you to a place where you could retire, where you wanted to retire.
Oh yeah.
So what inspired that? And was it just that you were substituting it for something, or?
Yeah, so I was so caught up in my my goals, and my goal was be the best in the world and be a champion, which
Mhm.
I put together, and it was this hell bent path I was on that nothing else existed. I didn't even exist other than being this perfect version of me, and I just kept adding more to everything I was doing. That's why my fight name came about, which was Limitless, because in order to sustain the training schedule that I had and adding more to it, I just kept telling myself I'm limitless, powerful, beyond measure. It doesn't matter how tired I am, doesn't matter anything. Like you won't ever hear me say I was tired because I was so focused on what do I need to get this done to become the version of me that I am working towards.
Mhm.
And it wasn't until lockdown that I was set up to do 6 fights in that year, which meant there was going to be no off time.
Mhm.
And that was something that I was already doing. I was just going to have the consistency of fights to do that because since I started fighting, again, I was doing 7 days a week. I was going to no birthdays, no weddings, seeing no family members, seeing no friends. The only chance that they saw me is if I got hurt, which they would have mixed feelings because it's like, I don't want to see you hurt. I'm kind of happy because you're here.
Right.
and and something about my fighting style is I fought very smart and I was a master of distance. So I never took damage. So I was always healthy and getting ready for fight camps. And my routine to go into fights is 2 weeks out. I would turn off my emotions so I don't feel bad for what I'm about to do because I can't hold back. I have to go for the finish. If you don't go for the finish, you're only going to go a quarter of the way. They're not going to tap, they're going to escape, and now they're going to inflict pain.
Right.
So if I focus on the pain I'm going to cause you, I don't care what you're going to do. I'm already locked into my thing. And because I was so active and I was turning off my emotions, I wouldn't turn my emotions back on. So I just stayed in this state of just always being fight ready and essentially not even caring about my own being.
Mhm.
And nothing was ever enough. I won my titles and didn't really care. Was I didn't finish good enough. I didn't do this. Nothing was ever enough, and I kept chasing for this thing of like, once I become like a champion here, once I become a champion here, once I win this. And in lockdown, I didn't have the same training schedule, and I was forced to slow everything down. And that could only distract myself so much because the way my days were full is I would have multiple training sessions. In between the training sessions, I would watch fights so I could understand different strategies, different styles, hear the coaches, hear the corner, and I would just learn all of this. And I would watch interviews, understand mindsets, learn about sports psychology, and all this stuff. So my whole day was filled with fighting, which again, it's not really giving me much space to be with me.
Mhm.
I would meditate, but the meditate was to provide me a stillness that I could tap into for competition. It wasn't to connect with me. And then in lockdown and having everything slowed down to I only had one training session a day to where I would go to by my instructor. We would film a YouTube show and it would be about an hour. We would train about an hour after, and I would have now the whole day to myself. And after watching so many fights, it's like, okay, I'm here. And I would hear people be very uncomfortable with being home that long. To where like some people I heard were being suicidal, depressed, and
Mhm.
and to me I didn't notice any difference. Literally lockdown was my life since I started training, which was 2000 end of 2010, 2011. So it wasn't until I was on the highway and there was nobody there. First I was like, this is awesome, no traffic. But also I'm like, there's like nobody outside.
It's
And I
weird.
was like, I love being unique and different, but if pretty much majority of the world is feeling depressed and feeling,
Hmm.
degrees of wanting to hurt themselves, maybe something's a little,
Off.
off. And as I paid attention to that, I started to dive in and just do deeper work and self development on myself. And that's when I realized I was using fighting to cope with the fact that I wasn't happy. Fighting was the only place that I felt I could make life fair. Everything felt out of my reach. I felt like I didn't have control. And fighting was something that was like, okay, there's nobody else imposing on my life. It's just me and you.
Hmm.
Everything that I know to be true about me, I can just show you and just do it. And as I started to reflect on all those things, I was like, okay, just to make sure this isn't anxious thinking, because I don't like to make decisions from any forces outside of me. I took a fight during lockdown just to show myself, like, okay, like I'm not letting the fact that the world's going through this stuff that now it's affecting me. And I took the fight, I dominated the guy, and I felt the same exact way. I was like, okay, let me take 2021 differently. And I took an additional day off. So instead of 7 days, I'll do 6 days. And I'll feel bad. And I'll train 7 days the next week to make up for it. So it took about a month to get used to taking an additional day off, which was Saturday, which was my favorite day. And felt the same way. I tried taking a week off, felt the same. And it wasn't until my instructor saw me, he was like, "You look off, you look burnt out." Because from the outside in, my training was still leveling up in both striking, grappling. Like I'm running purely on discipline and I'm still leveling up. But inside, like I was feeling nothing. I was numbed. And then my instructor was like, uh, I'm doing a seminar in Iceland. Why don't you come with me? I was like, okay, cool. So I went, and on the plane, I remember thinking like, this is what I want to do. I want to be able to travel and just have fun. And I couldn't remember like when I genuinely had fun. Because
Ooh.
even when I would go and I would watch fights with my teammates and hang out with them, in the back of my mind, I'm always preparing for a fight. So I'd be thinking like, you shouldn't be doing this. You should be getting ready for this and this and this and this. And I just wouldn't enjoy it. So then when I was there, I got to just like have fun. It was like 22 hours of daylight. And I was just like, I didn't even know this existed. And there was an aspect that like I still had to train because, his back got a little tight on the airplane. So I had to train, but also uphold the standard of being one of his black belts. So it's still like I had to tap into not fully, but partially like the competition aspect of of being on. And then he acknowledged that and then took me sightseeing. And I was just like, man, how fun would it be to just do this more often and not only because I'm burnt out? And then that's when the thought came of like, what if you retire? And before, I would never even allow myself to formulate that sentence, put those words in that order. And then I realized I was more afraid to retire than any fight I could think of. And then that's what made me aware that, like, okay, now I have to do it.
Right.
Because one of the main reasons why I fight is to face my fear. So I know that if I kept fighting, to everybody else, they'll be calling me this brave warrior. But inside, deep down inside, I'll be this coward because I'm running away from a fear.
Hmm.
I'm running away from the fear that who am I without fighting? What is life going to be without fighting? What do I have? What do I even have to offer in a conversation that does not include me fighting? And I didn't know. And I saw that like my entire identity was put into fighting. And there's one point where I loved that because it made me unique, but then I just lost myself entirely. So I just jumped into the unknown and saw what was life like without fighting. And then I did a meditation the week after. And in preparation for announcing it to people that I was going to retire, all thoughts came up. It came up of like, okay, I'm following like what happy feels like, and I'm going to discover it and actually like genuinely be it. But also, am I wasting my potential? I have
Right.
avenues on the way to the UFC. I created all these different paths to get there. I'm lined up for a title fight. I'm the best at the places that I train. Am I just wasting it? Am I afraid of my potential? And I sat with all possible different thoughts and scenarios that came up. And I came at peace. So I was just like, no, I know I'm more afraid of life without fighting, and I have to see what's in that fear. Anytime I face a fear, I always level up beyond belief. So stepped into it. When I told people, when I announced it, that's the exact feedback I got back. Some people would say, hey, I'm happy you're following your happiness. The other bulk of them, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You're so good. But because I sat with it, it didn't make me uncomfortable. And I got to just sit with my knowing of like, yeah, no, thank you. I appreciate your support and the fact that, you see that you saw what I was going for and what I was doing. I appreciate that. And I appreciate you. But this is something I have to do and follow for me. And as I meditated, I heard a message that came up. It was like the thought in my head that wouldn't go away. And I was like, okay, I'll write it down after. And it just kept getting louder and louder. It's like, all right, I'll write it down now. And what I wrote was just like, share everything that you learned about mindset and focus and connecting with yourself with everybody. That's what I do now.
Awesome. Did you have any like almost altercations with people close to you over it?
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, people know like once I make a decision, they know like one, there's no change in my mind, but also they know that like I sat with it.
Awesome.
Even before like I did the work, I will always sit with like, what do I want?
Right. And you were
Yeah.
definitely stepping into the unknown. You're putting faith over fear. Did doors open for you instantly, or was there a process where you were literally struggling with it, or how did it all come about?
It was in layers. It was in layers of like um doing a lot more of the work,
Mm.
a lot of temptation, a lot of temptation. So where like my previous fight manager gave me a couple weeks and just gave me a call. Hey, how you doing? I was like, doing good. He's just like, so you're still gonna stay retired and do all that Zen stuff? I was like, yes, that's what I'm doing. He's like, all right, I'm just checking because there's just a title fight available. I just wanted to see. I'm just like, yeah, I'm good. Doesn't pull at me. And then even my instructor was like, that kind of backfired. I thought the trip was gonna like reset you and then, light your fire again. I didn't think it was gonna like get you to stop. I was just like, no, I'm good. And then some jiu-jitsu competitions, slots will open up. And I kept picking. I was just like, I see like it was almost like life was checking, like, is this really what you want? Are
Mm.
you gonna double back
Mm.
on your choice?
Right.
You have a wide open lane right here if you just want to go. You don't even have to open the door. The door's wide open. Actually, there's two doors wide open. You could fit through. I was just like, no. And in in sitting with that and just paying attention to like, okay, I'm not missing out on anything. Because the only time I really got close to like feeling something was when I had to corner my teammate and like we're in the same weight class for his title fight. And I'm watching all these fights. I'm just like, okay, I will win that fight. I will win that fight. And I'm just seeing all these different styles. I'm watching everything happen. I'll see, I will do this, I will do this, I will do this. And it's completely different in person just because it's like the swirl of energy that takes place. Because there's the energy of all the fighters backstage. And there's this mixture of like aggression, but there's a lot of fear and anxiety that's trying to be masked by aggression. And then you have the fear of the team because it's different when you watch somebody that fight.
Mm-hmm.
Because you almost would prefer to fight yourself because you can't do anything if they get hurt. So like there's that rush of emotion. And then there's the aggression of all the people drinking in the crowd, the anxiety of the people and family members and friends in the crowd. Then there's the referee who also doesn't want to make a mistake, so he has to be like fully on and like all this swirl of energy that you feel. And it's not till you get towards the cage that you're kind of like in the eye of the storm that you really feel the rush and you have to be locked in. That's a whole different energy. So, like, being in the corner, I felt it and I was like, I haven't felt this in a while. And I felt like myself like turn on and have to block everything out and be on. And I was just like, there's a certain rush and aliveness that comes from it because you have to ignore the noise, but tune in to the sound of your corner, read your opponent's patterns, be aware of your patterns, and just all this happening at the same time that, like, your ability to multitask, like be on your phone and driving and all that,
Mhm.
if you can amplify that times 100 and only focus on one thing, that's the sensation. But that's also what keeps people afraid to retire. That's why you see a lot of fighters overstay their welcome
Mhm.
to where they're like 50 and they're still fighting because it's like it's tough to find that same rush somewhere else. The closest thing I found to it was skydiving. And also, what do you do? What do you do if you've given your entire life to that? What else is there to do? And then that's when I realized it's like, okay, like I'm not very, very tempting. That was close, but I'm still not going. I'm not going back.
I can only equate that to being an alcoholic and then going to the bar every night and not, after you've given it up and like, wait a minute, this is not the element to abstain, but good on you for sticking with it. So are there any athletes that either are part of your history or part of your teammates that you are trying to relay this information to in a way that they can still maintain their careers, they can still do what they're doing and kind of also have, the ability to be in touch with who they really are and learn more about themselves in that way?
Yeah, this is I'll see my the messages I always put out is for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Because even when I was studying when I was studying champions, I was also studying champions in other realms. Like, even for example, like Oprah. If you really think about her, she's a reigning defending champion in her world. To reach that level of success and also sustain that success, she's essentially been defending
Her.
that title, so to speak, like that belt. Yeah. And it's like that mindset. So it really doesn't matter what you do, who you are. The main thing is, in whatever you do, still come back to you. Because if you start to lose sight of you and you only get focused on the future version of you, you're leaving a part of you behind. And it takes all of you to become that version of you that you think. And again, why do you want to be that version of you? Because we only do things because of how we think is going to make us feel.
Right.
And a lot of times, that future version of us, it's like life is going to get better if I'm this version of me. But then again, by definition, if you're chasing something, it always has to be out of reach in order for you to chase it. So you're never going to be that future version of you because you're seeing it in the future. The main thing is, if that's the future version of you, why do you want to be that? And if you think it's going to make life better, cool. In what ways? What sensations do you feel when you think about that version of you? And if you start to tap into that and embody that version of you in little ways, keep embodying, you feel like, well, that version of you feels like very confident. Cool. What does that feel like? How can you feel that now? And as you feel that now that future version of you is here. And now you're just becoming that version of you who's going to live life in that way. And then now you just open the whole portal to this whole different reality. So you just brought your future into your now. And it just takes, again, you being whole with you and not seeing that something outside of you is going to complete you.
Right.
Because even thinking about the future version of you, that's still outside of you. So if you tap into a certain sensation, and the way that I guide people is through sensation. Words are easily forgettable. You never forget how something makes you feel.
Right.
So even when you think about the things that you're working for, you're striving for, why? What sensation are you looking for? Even people that are like in the weight loss journey. You want to lose weight? Cool.
Right.
You're not losing weight for a number.
No, for a
You can
feeling.
step on the scale 20 times a week. When you look in the number, when you look in the mirror, where do you see a number? Nowhere. So you're not doing it for the scale. Even when I help people lose weight, I don't even tell them, don't even get on the scale.
Yeah.
You could do it if you want to, but I tell them, don't even waste your time going on the scale. When you think about yourself losing weight and you imagine yourself being in the best shape of your life, how does that feel?
Mm.
Now, every time you go to work out, tap into that feeling. Every time you go to eat, tap into that feeling. And let everything that you're doing resemble that feeling. And you're going to feel whenever you think of something or you do something that doesn't align with that, like if you're on a weight loss journey and you're eating healthy, you're going to notice that kind of resonates with that future version of you that's in shape. And when you think about a burger, like a McDonald's burger, you're going to feel that doesn't quite feel the same. So it's not like somebody needs to be on top of you saying, do this, don't do this. No, you have that the whole time. That's
Mm-hmm.
the whole point of your emotions. That's the whole point of your feelings. It's like like your own GPS. It's like a radar, and it'll let you know, hey, is this in resonance with the vision that you have? If it is, cool, follow it. If it doesn't, you already know the answer to that question.
Right.
I don't even need to tell you.
Right. It's very difficult for a lot of people to understand that emotion is the absolute paramount over just a thought or a belief. Even I was at a gym where one of the owners of it relayed that information very clearly when he said that, look, it doesn't matter what this person comes through the door with or wanting. If they don't believe that they can have it, they don't feel what their end goal emotional response will be, then it's almost all null and void anyways. So
Yeah.
what do you have any other modalities, any other things that you recommend for people who are trying to get just on the right path to understanding themselves, sitting and being with themselves and having some kind of clarity, and even letting some of this that we're talking about set and resonate with them so that they can apply it to their lives?
Yeah, it's a very simple one. Is
Mm-hmm.
one of your breath. Because that's something that's overlooked
Mm-hmm.
all the time. Because we kind of take for granted that like the next breath is there. It's like, so we don't think about it. So we don't think about the pace in which we breathe. So the way the body works is the body lets you know what you're doing with your mind. And that's why a lot of times people will have certain habits, if you notice. Sometimes people will have like a certain tick, or some people will like, keep scratching a certain area, or they will have like a certain irritation. Or another common one is biting nails.
All right.
So the reason people have the habit of like biting nails, pay attention, whatever habit you have or whatever irritation you have, pay attention as to what you're thinking about when you catch yourself in the act of doing that thing. Chances are, if you're biting your nails, you're probably thinking about something that's stressing you out.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason why, without realizing it, that you're biting your nails is eventually you're going to get to the point where it causes pain. When it hurts, your attention is now on the finger, it's no longer on the thought that was stressing you out. So your body is helping you in different ways. So it's trying to let you know, hey, you're caught up in a loop. Another way to kind of break yourself out of loops is just through a breath. And it's 3 deep breaths, and it maybe takes 10 seconds. So all you do is you take a deep breath in the nose, and then a long, slow exhale, like you're breathing through a straw. So the way that would look is just, and you want to make the exhale slower and longer than the inhale. Reason being is the inhale gets the heart pumping blood. The exhale slows it down. And then you'll feel a certain sensation of ease just wash over your entire body. So if you do that 3 times, by the third one, you're going to feel this stillness, this peace. And it's like you just hit a reset button. And after you do those 3 deep breaths, then it's like you just recalibrate it. So I call it like a recalibration breath.
Mm-hmm.
And again, doesn't matter how busy you are, because you could tell yourself, okay, I have all these things, but you have time for 10 seconds. And even if you're so busy that you don't have time for 10 seconds, you have time for 3 breaths.
Right.
You go to the bathroom break, and while you're peeing, you can do the 3 breaths. You got time for 3 breaths. And then what's going to happen is you're going to enjoy the sensation of that ease.
Right.
And that's what's going, again, to give you that clarity. So the main thing is just a lot of times people want to be happy and they just want their lives to be easier. There's this whole concept of, it's from, if you pay attention to a lot of things, right? In like motivation, the hustle culture, and everything, I guess you disassociate it from your feelings and your emotions. A lot of times, feelings and emotions are seen as weak. I'm not saying go everywhere crying, bawling your eyes out. It's just understand the the body, how it works. You're not giving a manual, but if you pay attention, you kind of already know how to use this. And it's just feelings and emotions is feedback.
Right.
You're getting real-time feedback as to what's happening, what works for you, what doesn't work for you. What happens when you ignore that feedback and you make yourself do something that you feel you don't want to do? It always sucks. It always ends up getting worse. So it's like, maybe there's something to it. Maybe you should start paying attention to what you have to say. And in doing so, you notice things get a lot easier. And a lot of times people become resistant at first when I plant the seed of life can be easy. It's like, well, it has to be some sort of suffering. It has to, you have to work hard. And it's just like,
Do you?
that's one option.
Yeah.
But what's another option? And it's just like seeing that there's a whole bunch of ways to approach life. Because if you love what you do, that whole concept of working hard, if you love what you do, you notice you don't pay attention to time. You get so locked into it that 2, 3, 4 hours would pass by and you're just going, you're in this flow, which is essentially the same thing as working hard. But it's only hard work when you make yourself do something you don't want to do. That's why it's hard.
Right.
It's not meant for you. You're not meant to do that. Do something else. And you already know what you prefer to do. So if you follow that ease, if you follow the flow, pay attention to water. Water, if there's a boulder in the way, the water doesn't try to move the boulder out the way and no, it just flows around it. It goes the way that provides ease. So if there's any tension in your body, you're holding on to something.
Right.
And again, if you have any neck pain, any back pain, what are you thinking about when you notice the pain? You're probably thinking about something that's stressing you out. Your body's trying to get your attention by causing some pain. And it's like, okay. And it's hoping maybe you will make the association of what you're thinking about when you feel the pain.
Mm-hmm.
What happens when you're able to relax? Why do you enjoy vacations? Why do you enjoy a day off? Because there's a sense of ease. There's a hint there. You're trying to let yourself know in all these subtle ways. Not that it has to only be on the weekend, not that it has to only be on vacation. No, you want to feel that way, and you
Mm-hmm.
want to feel that way all the time. It's just been convinced to you that that's not attainable for whatever reason, but that's not true. Even you know that's bullshit. So just
So
follow that.
yeah, so working with clients and doing these retreats. I know you said you worked on some other individuals, group efforted retreats and exercises. Do you get that sense of ease for yourself when you share this information and you see it's received well? Is it get fulfilling for you in that way?
Yeah, honestly, it's the best feeling I've ever experienced, even better than any match I've ever won, any title, medal, just nothing compares to this feeling just because it's like I genuinely love learning more about this. Like I'm constantly having fun of enjoying like the puzzles of why limiting beliefs exist, like certain limiting beliefs. Why does it exist? Why does it make sense? How to decipher it, how to shift it and get people to get to the point of understanding of how to release that in a significant amount of less time
Mm,
and delivering that as simple as possible. Like that in itself is its own fun puzzle for me. But the best thing is being able to see people transition throughout the session and to see like a session will start out like this. And then as the session goes, they get happier and like their shoulders drop, they start to get brighter. And it's like, I can feel that they're in a significantly better place. And also just hearing the transformations that take place. And it's like life changing transformations. It's like, oh, that's awesome. It's like I'm watching, it's like I get to watch nonstop hero movies
right.
back to back to back to back to back. It's like I'm seeing them become the hero over and over. It's like, cool. I'm watching like my favorite movies over and over.
Awesome. Awesome. So I guess I want to know personally, you still training right now? Jiu-jitsu is it? Or
Yeah, I
MMA?
do
Yeah.
some striking and some jujitsu. I find the pockets to fit
Just
it in.
keep yourself fit in shape. You're not tempted at
Yeah,
all. You tempted at all to go in there and get like heavy sparring rounds in, or you just staying
nah.
on
I
it
mean,
for exercise?
sometimes personally for me, no.
Mm,
Just because I reached the point when I retired, as just like another thing I released from competition is that proving energy.
right.
In competition, you have to prove that you're better. You have to prove that you're the best. And knowing who I am and knowing myself, knowing my worth, I have nothing to prove.
Yeah.
But sometimes in training, people would hear that I was a professional fighter and I was a champion. I'm a black belt. Some people just want to test themselves.
Right.
So you got to check people sometimes.
Yeah.
So I do.
Awesome, brother. All right, man. Just wrapping this up. Any advice you have for our listeners, and obviously where they can find you for coaching sessions? I'm going to put everything in the show notes as well, but just to hear it straight from you, that would be great.
Yeah. Just a reminder that remember who you are. Remember that you have that absolute power to create an entirely new story right here, right now. You don't have to wait. You just create an entirely new version of you, a new story right here, right now. And you can find me. My website is pathofremembrance.com. And then on Instagram and TikTok, YouTube, Facebook. But I'm at Mike Remembrance. So I make myself easy to find.
Awesome. It's been an absolute pleasure. For everybody that doesn't know, a friend of ours, mutual friend, introduced us, and I'm very grateful for her doing that and stoked to have this conversation, Mike. It's been a pleasure.
Yes, it was an amazing time. Appreciate being here with you.
Man, looking forward to seeing what you do next. See where your retreats go and where your coaching goes, and maybe we'll do this again.
Oh, most definitely.
Awesome, bro. Thank you for joining me, and you guys all have a good day.
Yes.
Bro, that was great, man. Your story is
Yeah, that was
absolutely
fun.